Welcome to Dr. Jester Rants, and I'm gonna rant about this. Well, Iran's Khamenei rejects talks with US over missile nuclear programs. This is from Jerusalem Post, but it's a republication or resharing, a resharing or republication from Reuters. And see here, by Reuters. So, your control left, your anti-Semitism, I don't care. I don't care about your anti-Semitism, and you're complaining about the sources. It comes from Reuters, so done. Do you understand? Anyway, I'm still trying to recover from the last news. You're probably going to watch this a few days from now, depending on when I publish it, but I just had a horrible news that I had to read, and I'm still recovering from it. So my apologies if the quality of this video is not as good as it should be. Well, then again, my quality and my whole shtick is that it's a low quality product. Anyway, back again. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei rolled out negotiations with the United States over Tehran's ballistic missile and nuclear programs on Friday and urged Iranians to resist US pressure. Commenting on this and trying to give a bit of a context to it, the US under Obama signed a very controversial and exceedingly stupid, on my view, peace program or nuclear monitoring monitoring program, and on that it was absolutely stupid because America practically gave money for free to Iran, and there was very little checks done on Iranian nuclear program. It was practically giving Iran a free reign. It was horrible, and they pretty much put Israel on risk too, because not only the US paid Iran money, gave them money willingly. Obviously, they said it was because Iran had paid in the 80s in the US, and then the US returned that money for services not rendered, but it doesn't matter. It was practically free money to a dictatorial theocratic regime. And US doesn't negotiate with terrorists and regimes like Iran. I digress. Anyway, giving more context into it, Iran has been developing on and off, well, mostly on, nuclear program for weapons-grade arsenal. They have, and they are close to developing a nuclear missiles or nuclear bombs. It's not a thing like, in 10 years, in 2 years, in 1 year, Iran is going to develop a nuclear missile, a bomb, but that was done like 10, 20 years ago. And Iran doesn't have a nuclear program because of no. It means that if Iran wants to develop a bomb right now, they are 1 year away from it, or a month away from it. If they look, I'm gonna develop a bomb now, in 1 month they will have the bomb. That's how it is done. That's what Israel and what was the name of him again? It doesn't say here. Let's see. 1 second. Just confirm. I forgot the name. Netanyahu. There you go. Because many anti-Semites and control left and pro-Obama people usually mocked the way Netanyahu said on the UN about how Iran keeps is away like 1 year or 2 years from a bomb, or 1 month from a bomb. They keep mocking him over it. And Israel and other right-wing people, they keep saying, it's 1 month away from this, or 1 month away from that, or 1 year away from that. It's not because they are developing on and off of the program, or because they said this 10 years ago and Iran still doesn't have a bomb and that makes it false. No, it means, and simply means, that if Iran says or decides to do a bomb, they are exactly 1 month away, or 1 year away from that decision. From the moment they decide or the announcement, they are 1 month or 1 year away from that moment, that exact moment when they decide from developing a nuclear bomb. That's how it is. Now, continuing, they've also had multiple agencies, multiple nuclear capabilities developed, and things they keep developing and enriching the uranium way past of what you would use on a nuclear power plant or for medical purposes. They've developed, they keep enriching them, and there were a few other cases of the nuclear program in Iran where it got targeted by very smart people from the US and Israel that kind of put a wrench onto it. For instance, a very famous virus that I forgot the name as well, but that infected the entire nuclear, the enriching plant of Iran, and put a very big wrench onto it. That was amazing, and it put a delay if Iran once again decided to develop a bomb. On that moment, it put a big fat wrench onto it. It was good, and we should do more so because of regimes like this. Thank you, Russia, for leaking the nuclear programs from the US, because you hacked into, well, not hacked, spied on and stole from the US to develop your own nuclear program, which you then leaked to other countries like Pakistan, China, Iran, and etc. that you bought, that you sold, and they also bought from other countries in the region. Because of this, thank you, Russia, for fucking the world over. Anyway, back to the news. America's brutal sanctions on Iran are aimed at collapsing our economy. Their aim is to limit our influence in the region and to halt our missile and nuclear capabilities, Khamenei said in a speech broadcast live on television. I don't know if this was accidental, or they really intended to, or is an error on translation. But did they actually just right now, tiny little right now in this moment on that speech, admit that they want to use the nuclear knowledge for military purposes? Did they just did that on this tiny little sentence here, to halt on missile and nuclear capabilities? Did they just admit for nuclear missile program? Did they? Is that a translation error? Very Freudian slip? Or was it intended? I don't know. But considering how Iran has been running things, it probably either is a Freudian slip or an intended thing. Interesting, right? Relying on national capabilities and cutting our dependence on oil exports will help us to resist America's pressure. Relations between Tehran and Washington have deteriorated since US President Donald Trump in 2018 abandoned a pact between Iran and six world powers, under which Iran accepted curbs on its nuclear program in return for lifting sanctions. Yeah, they are kind of underselling what exactly they are underselling exactly what the program entailed or what it had been done. Anyway, the United States has reimposed sanctions that have sharply lowered Tehran's oil exports. Washington says it wants Tehran to negotiate a wider deal to further curb Iran's nuclear work, halt its missile program, and limit Islamic Republic's regional influence. Yes, that's another thing that it needs to be curbed, because if the US leaves Iraq for completely, they still have a few thousand troops in there. I think it's less than 3,000 or even less. They're just mostly for training and giving small little supports here and there in regards to training and advice to the local military. But if the US completely leaves Afghanistan and etc., that is and will open that region, the entire region, for influence with Turkey and Iran, with Russia too. It will practically be, well, we can actually see what happens. For instance, Iran practically influenced Iraq, and they are doing they are putting the people, the minority people in there, the Sunnis and other people in there at risk, especially the Christians at risk by the Shiite in power. That's exactly what Iraq did on a practically legal, practically non-sanctioned or authorized or supported by the opposition referendum that had that they would expel the US completely from Iraq after they bombed or killed a terrorist from Iran. I forgot his name. It's a useless stain on humanity, to say the least. And with that said, by expelling the US and all its capabilities completely from Iraq would put the entire minority people in there living in Iraq in danger, because Iran has been completely and utterly targeting that minority. And if Iran is run rampant in Afghanistan, they completely could do everything they want, because they are already doing that on Gaza and Lebanon and Syria. For instance, they keep sending missiles and military equipment and everything and personnel to those regions from Syria, Lebanon, and Gaza. They keep surrounding Israel and, in fact, sending weapons and missiles to those regions that they use to bomb and launch rockets into Israel. That's exactly what they've been doing in Syria. There have been rockets and attacks from Syria into Israel from those terrorist groups, and I am from Lebanon with what's the name? It's so many fucking retarded names from those terrorist groups. Either way, they keep supporting the terrorist groups in Lebanon that have and completely have done hijacked and made the entire government in there puppet to Iran. That's how bad it is. In Gaza, they constantly keep sending drones and technical influence, technical knowledge, and weapons to Gaza, which they keep sending and launching on Israel. Well, you know, there's no need to teach you about exactly what happens when Gaza decides to attack Israel. And the world will then condemn Israel and say Gaza is innocent because of blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you on my next video. Good night.